Okay, this is, for me, this is the real rub of what we're talking about. If you're going to manage water quality, you need to cap emissions. I've accepted that as a farmer. I've accepted that as a trout fisherman. I've accepted that as someone who will have grandchildren that want to play in the lake in the future. So there is no debate for me on that. We've had riparian plantings in the catchment since 1982. We've basically had no effluent discharge issues in that time from dairy farms, and there are only 4 in the catchment. The reality is that's just playing around the edges with the issue. If you want to protect a water body, you're going to have to limit the livestock numbers in that water body. If you want to remediate a water body, you're going to have to reduce the livestock numbers. That has huge impacts for catchment economies, regional economies, and a national economy. And I don't think we're including those impacts in this discussion anywhere near enough. So I've accepted that a nitrogen cap in my case is a cap on stock urine. I've never put nitrogen fertiliser on my farm. About 250 kilograms a year enters through fixation by clover. So it's just, and a urine cap is essentially a cap on stocking rate and, in my case, production. The science that we had on our place showed that there's not a lot I can do, or not a lot I can expect from science. I couldn't get a single scientist to stand up in the Environment Court and tell me that I could get production increases under a cap that would match my cost increases. So the standard farming business model in this country has been predicated on a couple of assumptions. One, we've received basically static prices for our meat, our wool and our dairy produce, apart from the odd spike, since 1984. In that time, our costs have ramped up every year, so our response has been to take up science and intensify. If you're going to cap emissions, you have to accept that you turn that business model on its head. I can no longer grow more meat on my farm. I can get some incremental gains by buying better bulls and breeding faster growing animals, but within the limits of this discussion, I have to accept I can grow no more meat. What I have to do is get more for the meat that I grow. And that's a fundamental shift in the New Zealand farming business model. That's why we formed Taupo Beef. We wanted to test the question, will consumers pay a premium for beef that is produced under a catchment management plan that's designed to protect the lake for generations to come? Everyone that we talked to told us, no, you won't. Having this sort of thing in place just gets you around the negotiating table for supermarkets. It won't get you a premium. We've run a trial for the last, it's nearly a year now we've been running. And I would have to say that some consumers are willing to pay a premium. We have to get the story right, we have to get the verification right, and this is where verification and certification by the Regional Council was absolutely imperative. So we turned what was variation 5, and essentially a bummer for farmers, into a marketing advantage. We can now, hand on heart, tell consumers that if they eat our beef, it's grown under, and this is Bruce's point in its entirety, under a catchment-wide model that is designed to protect the lake. I mean, I still leach as a farmer, but as a catchment, we've got it sussed as far as we can tell. And so using a catchment-wide system, I can say that the beef produced on our farm is done in a way that will protect the lake. So if an American fly fisherman's been on the lake all day and then he goes to the Hilton Hotel and he reads a story about this beef, he's been blown away by the water quality. We wanted to see whether that story would resonate with him and he would pay a significant premium. So what is Taupo beef? We've arranged for the animals that we kill 20 animals a fortnight, and those animals are radio frequency tracked from 3 farms. The animals are processed and The meat is assigned a barcode at the point of process, and I can absolutely hand on heart say that if you have a steak at Hooker Lodge or Hilton or wherever else in the Taupo area, I can tell you when it was killed and which farm it came from. We have had to grow these animals really quickly and finish them quickly. We cannot run animals through a second winter because that puts us in breach of our NDA. We're using Charolais Angus cross animals because we found that they give the best compromise between size of prime cuts, marbling and quality of meat. The meat is aged for a minimum of 4 weeks, which is something the meat industry is not keen on doing because it involves holding inventory for a long time. We're selling it at a significant premium in a range of restaurants and a butchery. They have paid a premium and it's just rocking out the door. We've had outstanding feedback from chefs and restaurants. Sharon and I we probably talk to a restaurant a week that wants to join the program. We cannot supply them. We've had requests from Auckland and Wellington to do the same. I won't know though whether this is successful until we take it to the export market. You've got to remember, only 15% of the food we produce in this country is consumed internally. We've got to try and tell this story to 85% of people that live overseas. Having said that, a big portion of our market in Taupo are international visitors. And they just so get this. They get this story way quicker than the New Zealand consumer. We have to build, though, a business model that produces a return back to the farmer. And that's, I have to say, still a work in progress. So, summing up, we can farm in ways that cap nutrient emissions. Livestock numbers are going to be need to capped to do that, though. So we, and this is all of us in this room and as a nation, are we willing to accept a cap on income by continuing with the current commodity-based model for farming, or are we willing to invest in redefining the New Zealand food production system at the same time as we're talking about emissions? If you don't have the conversations in concert, well, you're buggered, really. So I can't put it any other way. That's a fairly rural way of looking at it, but I can't see it any other way. So I'd now like to take this to a personal level. There's a role for every consumer in this. You people are obviously very interested in water quality because you've come here today. Do you actively seek out food that's grown with a minimal impact on water quality? Do you ask your butcher, your supermarket, your restaurant owner? Do they even know? No, I bet they don't. But that's something that all of us can do right from today. The next question you have to ask yourself is, what premium are you prepared to pay for that food? When I was born, my mum paid 48% of the weekly household income on food, and that was the national average. Today we're spending 18% of the weekly household on food. So we've industrialised the production of food and we've commodified it. And none of us like paying more than we have to for it because we've got all these other flash things we want to spend money on. The reality is if you want water quality, you're going to have to rethink the way you buy food and what you pay for it. And that will be the real test of how much you value water quality. So I can do the bit around the story and I can do the bit around farming in this way. Are you willing to do the other bit?